welcome to another beautiful morning on your newspaper review on Idea Television. And I am, as usual, your host, Jacob Deborah. And we always are happy when we see the presence of our guest, Barrister Damisi, in the house. Welcome this morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here once again.
I must say, I like your tie. It looks so. Is that fruit?
I don't know. Just thought it matched with my outfit. Thank you.
Good. You always look good. And to all our viewers that's taking their time to actually tune into this program, welcome to you. We'll be diving without wasting your time into the newspaper review. And the first newspaper I'll be looking at is the Nation newspaper. We always see that African leaders shift focus to healthcare. We've heard that the African leaders has gathered in Ghana, is to gather in Ghana for an African meeting based on healthcare sector. Now we'll be looking into the news fully. We heard that Nigerian statement will be communicated today to the continent's leader at the African Health Sovereignty Summit at Accra, Ghana. The high-level summit will assemble African heads of state, ministers, diplomats, diplomatic partners, and also private sector leaders to advance a new vision of the healthcare financing and to help upgrade the health system. The summit will also feature the launch of Scaling Up Sovereignty and Transactions and also Institutional Network SUSTAIN initiative for a strategic framework for financing healthcare system of African countries. This is one of the stories that actually caught my attention on the front page of the Nation newspaper, saying that after we spoke about, we spoke about hypertension yesterday, and we're saying that focus are being shifted away from the things that are supposed to be priority to us. And most of this illness, like hypertension, cancer, and all of that, if you look at African countries, we suffer more than other Asian countries and all of that when it comes to these things, and it's because of our healthcare facilities. Seeing that African leaders have decided to come together to actually put an end to this suffering. Like you said, I think in one of the programs, these are things that can be preventable. These are diseases that can be prevented, deaths that can be prevented, and we can actually put a stop to it. So why not tap into the idea of putting a stop into it? And now the African leaders have come out.
Yes, it's a good one. It's a step in the right direction for African leaders to come together. You know, there's power in unity. Come together to see how you can address these challenges. I've always said that the Nigerian problem, the African problem as it relates to healthcare is a very, very big one. You know, there are some diseases that Africa shouldn't be dealing with. You know, Africa is still dealing with polio. You know, the world over, the rest of the world, they've left polio far. You know, I often thought at a point in time we were thinking polio is out of the country, but you still saw little cases of polio. So it's a step in the right direction. I hope it's not just a summit where they'll just go and speak, because, you know, some of these African summits is just to speak, no implementation. I hope there is implementation, and they said they'll be sourcing for financing. I hope that they'll be able to get enough financing to be able to push into the health sector. And, you know, like we were saying yesterday, let's make the health sector.
Now we're moving into our tech news, where we see that old power plants get digital makeover driven by AI boom. So that's Europe races to meet climate goals and shifts down its 153 coals and lignite plants by 2038. A surprising new chapter is unfolding. A big tech company like Microsoft and Amazon are snapping up and their aging industrial sites to transform them into AI-driven data centers with existing grid on connecting water cooling system already in place and the old power stations to offer a fast-track solution to one of the tech world's biggest headache and energy access. We see that Europe's old coal and gas power plants is the kind that usually used to be pollutant to air and pollutant to other things like water and all of that. And instead of killing those factories. Europe have
Transform them.
decided to transform them into energy supplies. And looking at AI, AI needs a lot of space and energy for it to actually be functional in your country. When I was reading this particular news, I was asking myself where Nigeria is. People, we are trying, because we're actually we have not fully walked into the AI world yet. And we see countries that have walked into the AI world and looking for a way to even improve. Now they're looking for a way to improve it. I can't wait to see a situation where Nigeria has fully walked into the AI world, and they're trying to actually improve. They're just trying to upgrade and catch up with time.
Yes, one thing that impresses me about this story is the fact that the coal mines, the old refineries that Europe uses before is what is being transformed into the future AI vehicles and all of that. So this just shows a very, very fantastic story, and it is also an example to the rest of the world. Don't just destroy what you have. If you see that what you already have can be used to transformed into working into improved AI, into improved technology and all of that. Don't destroy it, transform them, And like I always say, there's an AI race going on now. Europe too doesn't want to be left behind. You see, they are building data centers. Yes. Yesterday we were talking about China. Today we are talking about Europe, They are building data centers, Artificial intelligence is definitely taking over the world, you see, and Europe is investing massively, You hear of European countries investing massively, turning their old structures into new structures. New data centers are being built day in, day out, Everybody is thinking, how can I get ahead of every other nation as regards the AI? So for Nigeria, that should also be the case, Let's think ahead. What are the vehicles, the avenues that we can use to make AI too, so that we don't miss out on the opportunities that AI is presenting to us?
Now, the question that I wanted to ask, I actually wrote my question there because when I was reading through this particular story, this question actually came to me. Local communities and farmer plant workers have legal standing or contest to benefit from this particular work. How does it affect them? Because like you said, when we bring it down to Nigeria, if we say we want to do that in Nigeria, what will happen to the local farmers and all of that? Because they say they are converting most of these refineries, and like we said, they are turning waste into energy, right? And they are going to be other fallbacks for farmers and all of that. So what do you think they will be able to do? I think yesterday we were at a program and we're talking about a situation where agriculture in Nigeria can actually work fully into technology. Because now if it comes to agriculture, Nigeria is still far behind. And we are the one that is going to suffer when it comes to this particular type of ideas coming into Nigeria, because when it comes to agriculture in Nigeria, we are still far behind. What happens we are looking for solutions to make available food, to actually eradicate all these food sufferings and food this thing that has been happening or going around in the country. So how do you think that farmers can actually walk into this particular idea?
One thing we need to understand as a people in Nigeria and also the world generally, we are living in an evolving world. The world is transforming. Technology is taking over. I don't know if it's USA or there's a country that I think only about 10% of their population is into farming, is into agriculture, and they feed the entire nation and they also export. While in Nigeria, we have, is it about 50-something or 60-something%, I'm not sure of the stats now, that's into agriculture mainly as our primary source of livelihood. And if you look at Nigeria, we're still practicing subsistence agriculture, hoe, cutlass, all those things. We are talking about AI here, hitting people's farms. People are using technology to make these things easier for themselves. So for every farmer in Nigeria and the rest of the world, you just have to tap into technology. That's just the truth of it. You have to tap into technology. In some countries, they are using robots to do their agriculture, run their agricultural produce. So every farmer that is not thinking technology will miss out. You can't have a nation that a nation that is just subsistence farming. Hey, Mama, Emeka, Baba, we go farm today. Let's go and use our hoe and cutlass. No, you have to work smart. You have to tap into the technological wave, the AI wave. And you see countries, you look at Israel. Israel is one primary example that I use in terms of agriculture. You need to go and look at the agricultural structure. A lot of technology is being put in place, because they have a limited farmland for agriculture. So they make use of of the technology that they have to make their farm produce. So every farmer, that whether you are a local farmer or trying to become an international exporter of, yeah, so you need to look into agriculture. Yeah. It's just a pity that AI, like we always say, AI is coming to take a lot of people's jobs. And anybody that doesn't evolve, whether you're a farmer, you are a lawyer, if you don't evolve with the times, you will be taken away and you won't be able to feed your family and all. So it's something that the farmers need to look at.
I pray that we walk into that particular stage where Nigeria, we can look at Nigeria agriculture and see that actually we fully evolved into the technological world. Yes. Because like I said, I think I've seen other countries where they've even gone beyond planting on normal soil. Like they just need the soil alone. They don't need to even plant on normal ground. Yes. And like I said, if this kind of thing comes to Nigeria, I want to imagine what the farmers would be suffering. Okay, the next news we'll be looking, next tech news we'll be looking at is as AI power needs surge, US data centers bet on hydrogen as sustainable alternative. We have that as artificial intelligence drive up global electricity demand. A Mountain View-based startup Link, the Edge Cloud Link (ECL), is leading a bold new push, replacing carbon-heavy grids power with clean burning hydrogen. ECL has launched what is claimed to be the world's first hydrogen power AI data center, boosting 1.2 megawatts of power, enough for 1,500 homes, and generating 100 plus gallons of water per hour to cool service. The company has hopped into a scale with zero emission of green hydrogen, but for now, it's blend in blue hydrogen for natural gas plants, raising both hopes and eyebrows in the tech world. Another beautiful innovation.
Yes, that's the beauty of AI. AI is going to affect every sector.
Every sector.
You know, this one we are talking about US now. You are talking about AI affecting the electricity sector of the country. You know, generating about 1,500 megawatts or something.
Yes.
You know, that's a huge one. And like I always say, you have to evolve with AI. Every industry is going to be touched by AI. You see, the Americans now, they are using AI to help their electrical needs, you know. And this is something Nigeria too needs to begin to look at. How can we have AI helping us in some of these sectors, health sector, agricultural sector, we are talking about electricity here now. AI, we are seeing that AI can also help you generate electricity and all of that. So these are the things that even individuals too need to begin to ask them. So how can I tap into AI to make it let it be of an advantage to me? I know. So it's a good one, it's a brilliant one, and we just hope that as more innovation goes on, as people begin to innovate with the use of AI, that more people also begins to tap into this, nations begins to tap into this and advance their AI course. Yes.
It's a beautiful one. Hydrogen power AI data center aren't just for futuristic idea. They are strategic and necessary for any country that wants to lead the next digital era without collapsing its grid or home or the environment as a whole. Nigeria has a raw material in the market and urgency, but the require need for Nigeria is to look into this particular idea. AI, like you said, is going to be taking a lot of things. It has moved into so many sectors and it's going to be collecting so many people's jobs if you do not catch up. And looking how I can imagine a world of artificial intelligence and Nigeria cannot be found in it or cannot be mentioned in it. It's going to be so, will I say so awkward? Imagine using or imagine every other country using electrical vehicles and we're still using petrol. And imagine somebody walks into Nigeria and you're like, petrol, what's petrol? A generation where they did not even meet petrol. And be like, what's petrol? What's petrol? And all of that. I can imagine. Whenever I imagine these things, I just always hope and wish that Africa and Nigeria can actually walk with the time and walk fast also, because these things are happening fast. Today one invention, tomorrow another invention. Before next week, this invention that was so big and so of a big deal to people becomes, oh, that one's an old news.
It's
There's
an
a
old
new,
news.
don't you know there's a new upgrade?
Let me give you a short story just before we go to the next headline. You know, there was, I think, was like 6-7 years ago, there was a story I was watching of someone in Germany.
Yeah.
You know, they went to a museum and they saw a stove. You know, this cooking stove, and the person was shocked. He said, "What's this?" They said this is a cooking stove. This is what we used to use in those days. And now I was like, I looked at my hostel that time because I was still in the university. We had a stove. I said, these people, they don't know what stove is. This stove is, you know, that shows that all those countries, and the report was actually saying that about 98% of Germans don't even know what a stove is again. They had gone beyond stove and all of that. But in Nigeria, yeah, we still use firewood, we still use stove. So imagine in the next 50 years, now every other country, they are talking about AI, us we are still talking about analog means and all of that. I pray that will not be our portion.
Amen. Yeah. Amen. The next newspaper from page we're looking at is the Tribune newspaper, where we see that Channel FAAC windfall into food security, human capital development. Expert tells federal government as well as states, and they urge them to privatize healthcare as well as education. And beside it in page 3, we see that Olubadan in council endorses the Lodoja as 44th Olubadan of the Ibadan land. And going down to the big headline, we see the crisis in PDP over for now, Wike says in page 15. And beneath it also, we see that armed men on motorbike kills 11, kidnaps 70 in Zamfara state. That story can be found in page 5, and also in that same page, we can see the Lagos residents cry out as flood attacks communities. And beneath it in page 3, we see that women rights groups decreases attack on female police officers. And in health, we see the world first gonorrhea vaccination program to be rolled out in England. And beside it, we see that plot against Olujari to undermine that story can be found in page 3, and NNPCL reforms. CCDI says WAEC results. You know, I actually waited for this particular headline. WAEC result. I think I've been following it for a while now, and looking at it, I've just heard that they've recorded. You know, when I was in school back then, they always used to say your set is the worst. Whenever another set comes. In fact, our lecturers will literally tell us, the last set, we thought they were the worst. But when we met you guys, we now see that you people are actually the worst. The definition of worst. And when I asked my juniors after out of that school, they would also say the same thing, that our lecturer said that we are the worst set compared to the last set before them. And it looks like Nigeria's educational system is getting
deteriorating. Yeah,
it's getting worse. It's really deteriorating, like you said. It's going down by every century that comes, every set that enters the educational system, and it's not supposed to be, because if we are walking into a digital world, it's making education more simple and more easier for us. So why is it that with all the whole technology and everything, funny enough, they wrote this WAEC. I think this year WAEC was written with CBT also.
Yeah,
let me read this then from the newspaper, the Daily Trust newspaper. It said stakeholders in education sector, including educationalists and parents, yesterday decried the poor performance of students in the West African Senior Certificate Examination, WAEC. Nigeria education sector is the spotlight as WAEC records its worst. You know, this is Western. Funny enough, it's not just Nigeria, but in Nigeria, they say they've recorded the worst. They say I'm hitting on it because apart from every other Western countries that were involved in this, they said Nigeria was the worst amongst all of them, with only 38.32% of over 1.9 million candidates passing 5 key subjects, including English and Maths.
It just shows it's terrible, and I think there were some people that are blaming that it's computer based. That is why. And
some people even blamed the teachers. Parents came out; they were blaming the teachers, and the teachers were blaming the government, and the government were blaming the parents. So it was not like as if blames were being passed.
To me, it's an institutional problem. Our educational sector is suffering an institutional problem. You know, like I was saying yesterday, we don't give priority to where our priority should be.
Actually.
Education is where our priority should be. I mean, if 38% of students are getting credits, not even excellent credits, just 5 credits in English and maths, that's 5
out of 1.9, 38%.
38%.
That's not up to
abysmal.
50.
That's very, very poor and abysmal, you know. And I've always said, let's take, for example, JAMB. You know, the cutoff mark for JAMB before was 200. You reduced it to 180. You reduced it to 160. So it just goes to show, what are you even doing? You are saying that, okay, we are more of, in quotes, Olodo, so let us reduce the standard so that our Olodo people can go. Let my people go. Let my people go. And, you know, like you said, we are moving in a fast-paced world. You need to go and look at the Chinese. Look at their educational system. They don't play with it. They don't play with it. The Chinese, they are talking about coding already, right from when they are in their, what we call primary school here. You know, they are talking about coding, they are talking, but else we are still failing English and maths in WAEC. So, I don't know. It's an institutional problem. Sometimes when you go to some schools, you will look at the school infrastructure and you say, no human being can pass here. They can't, because the walls and the are cracked, the ceilings are open, you will enter the schools, you will see rats on it. You know, all these LEA primary schools, it's an institutional problem. You will see in a class that's supposed to take maybe 25 people, you will see almost 100 students there. Teacher will come, he's teaching, nobody can hear him, students are playing, cultism is already, so GS1 students are already cult boys. So it's an institutional problem. And our leaders, what are they doing? They are avoiding the problem. They will send their students, their children to private schools or outside the country. So once they send their children to, some of them are even doing daycare self, they can afford to take their wards for daycare in outside the country, in UK. So they are avoiding the problem. They are not going to address it. My students are not here. It's just like our health sector. I can easily travel out and get the best of health. I can travel out and get my children will go to the best of schools outside of the country. So they won't address it because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect them. You see, that's why we need people that have a heart for the country to be our leaders. You know, I think it was Roosevelt that said something. He said, when good people fail to rise and enter leadership position, I'm trying to paraphrase it now. He said, bad people will be the leaders of that country. We've allowed people that don't have a heart for this country to rule us for too long. That's why we are suffering. 38% is abysmal. Imagine the next generation. We'll just produce more Boko Haram, more terrorists. And, you know,
it's not funny. We really need to look into this situation. Actually, you cannot even blame the students alone because, like you said, we went into, most of them, their complaints were they were not computer
they were not
computer literates and all of that. Most of them don't even know how to touch a computer. When you open a computer, they don't even know what is Microsoft. They don't even know most of the key things in the computer. And if they don't know that, how do you expect them to write JAM? JAM, yes. JAM has to just be clicking and all of that. And most of the time, people just feel like it should just read through. But when it comes to writing WAEC, I feel like WAEC is a different thing on its own. Me, I won't lie to you. I actually thank God that was not my time they wrote WAEC.
It was too soon. For them to implement the CBT, it was too soon. Because they need to take a while. At least train the students on how to use computer, maybe from their
before GS1. They even start speaking.
When I was in GS1, GS2, GS3, other countries were talking about laptops, talking about computers, Microsoft. Also, we're still talking about typewriter, business studies, how to use typewriter, shorthand. Thank you. So, so it just shows you that's why I say it's an institutional problem. It's not just a student problem. It can never be a student problem. I can never blame the students. I will always say it's an institutional problem. When the government, when the people, the stakeholders don't invest the right way. I mean, you cannot just throw students that are not used to, imagine a boy in Zamfara that has not even might not have seen a laptop before. You are giving him laptop to write the exam. Is it not someone that is still learning how to speak English?
After using Biro all through his life, you now for the first time, bring a laptop.
Someone that they are even teaching with both English and Hausa or English and Yoruba. He doesn't even know how to speak English well yet. and you're telling him to come and type in English. It's not possible.
This is quite funny. To all our viewers out there, what do you think? What do you think was the issue behind this particular outbreak of failure in Nigerian WAEC system education? Do you think it's the parents' fault, or is the government's fault, or it's the students' fault? And we want to hear from you. The next newspaper we'll be looking at is the Peak newspaper, where we see Oba Lodoja nominated as next Olabadon. We also see El Rufai Atiku threatens to Nigerians' unity and progress, APC says. And we also see voters' registration a duty of every eligible Nigerian citizen, INEC has come out to say. We also see an outrage as flood takes over Ijede and Ikorodu. Residents cry out for help and call on the governor, and also the governor Samuel Olu for help. And beneath it, we see that advise Atiku to quit politics like Mandela presidency, tells Peter Obi. Then beside it, we see that Kwara United players gets 5 million each for Federation Cup win. The last story on that newspaper, we see the PDP crisis over for now, Wiki has come out to say. The next newspaper I'll be looking at is the Daily Independent newspaper front page, where Afrimax Bank lead $4 billion refinery deal for Dangote refinery. We also see beside it that El Rufai article on a mission to end rationalizing presidency, APC says. We also see that the 712 billion naira outrageous plan for airport renovation, aviation expert has come out to say, and they've asked the federal government to concession airports or engage in PPP. And beneath it in page 7, we see that Tinubu rewards the Tigress with $100 each and national honors houses. And beneath it in page 9, we see that Obi will defeat any candidate in the north. Page 9, Jerry Ghana says. And in page 6, we see that Wike slams Atiku over Syria party defecation. And in page 6, we see that Olabadon in the council to nominate Lodoja as 44th Olabadon of the Ibadan state. And we also see Nigerian banks shunts loans to businesses depending on SME credit doubt. The next newspaper front page we'll be looking at is the Punch newspaper front page, where state versus discos, power cut begins over tariff imposes. We also see that Afrimax Bank lead $4 billion refining loans for Dangote refinery. That particular story, we are actually going to be looking at it. We've heard that in a major boost for African-led industrialization, the African Export and Import Bank, Afrimac Bank, has signed a $1.35 billion facility as a part of whooping $4 billion syndicate loan to the refined Dangote Petroleum Refinery, the world's largest and single-train refinery with 650,000 barrels per day capacity. Afribanks acting as a mandate lead to arrange the largest contributor and says funding will ease the operation cost as well as strengthens Dangote Industry Limited financial footing. Afribank is showing that African development can be financed internally, rather than relying on solely on Western Asian countries. I think we were talking about this yesterday. A situation where we will see Nigerians helping Nigerians.
Yes, so it's a good one that the banks, or rather a Nigerian bank, is the one pushing.
No, an African bank.
An African bank, Afrexim Bank, rather, is the one pushing an African refinery to come to spotlight. So it's a good one. I think Dangote being able to get this kind of money from Afrexim Bank is a good one. You know, let's see. Nigerians, let's see Africans investing in themselves in this particular thing.
It is actually good. Like I said, the refinery is expected to drastically reduce Nigerians' fuel imports. And I think, like I said, one of the people who have been an advocate for reducing the importation of fuel in Nigeria is this man, Dangote, Aluko Dangote. He wants a situation, I know it's business-wise too, he wants to earn, but still he's looking at the future, where Nigeria will not need to carry the unrefined fuel out to
And
refine, then bring
then
it
bring
back.
it back.
And
Yeah.
it's always cost. And he's saying trying to reduce cost. This reduces cost. This also shows that Nigeria can actually stand sovereignly
Yes.
when it comes to fuel exportation, because we won't be importing again. If we see that refineries like this can actually come out and actually be able to suffice over this whole issues,
Yes.
we will see, or we'll get to a situation where Nigeria will not need to import fuels.
Yes, yes. So that's the beauty of this Dangote refinery. I do hope that other refineries too that are coming up, like the BUA refinery and all other type of refineries, are being supported too like this. Not just refineries, other sectors of the economy too is being supported like this by both Africans and also by both Nigerian banks and all of that. Yes.
Okay, without wasting much of your time, we've come to the end of our newspaper review on Idea Television. Like I said, comment, like, and as well follow us on all our social media platform on Idea Television. I am Jacob Deborah, and in the house with me is
Barrister
Damisi
Adenike. It's been my pleasure being here.
I so love your name.
Yeah.
But anyway, to all our viewers, thank you very much for gluing to your skin, and do all to stay glued to this particular screen, because we'll be bringing you more innovative programs after this. And I would always say, stay informed, stay safe.